Hi, I'm Greg at Anglers All. I want to tie a Barr's Vis-A-Dun. John Barr up in Boulder, Colorado, retired dentist, came up with this pattern. He wanted to design a dry fly that was very durable, something that floated well, also that he could see, but something that just didn't fall apart. Wings that weren't difficult to tie in. So let me start on this. And I want to go through materials. The first is it's going to be tied on a Tamco 101. The thread we're going to use is some 8/0 light Cahill, and this is going to be a PMD version, so that's why we're going to use the light Cahill. The tail is going to be a light dun to a medium dun rooster. The tail, we're going to take a feather right off of the back of the neck here. They call that's where you find those spade hackles, which are very long and some nice stiff tailing materials. Then the wing will be some polypropylene dyed in this gray. And then the hackle will be Wapsi, hairline, superfine, dubbing. This particular color is the pale morning dun. And then of course the hackle through this will again be something from the neck. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay down a little foundation of thread. I'm going to start this thread at about, well, let's say the 75% point of the hook. So if we measured that right down the middle, that would be 50%. So half of that is 75. So just go ahead and mount that there and make a little thread base, touching turns. And once we get right above the barb of the hook, what we're going to do is make a few more wraps right on top of each other, creating a little dubbing ball, so to speak. Here's one of those spade hackles. You can see how long it is. It's not very long. You can normally get those or find those. Turn the neck over so we're looking at the hide. And what I normally do is go to the whitest part, and then you're going to grab these feathers right in this area. And it's usually on the very back side. And that's where I pulled this particular feather. There's one I can kind of see right there. If I pulled that off and then I strip this back, you can see for a short feather we have a very long tailing material, and it's also very stiff for tails and making some support. So what I'm going to do is pull about maybe 8 of these off. 6 to 8, you don't have to be really exact, but if you stroke those so that they're perpendicular to the stem of the hook, or I should say to the stem of the feather, grab them and then grab the stem and pull it off that way. That way all those tips should stay nice and even. Now, being a dry fly, this tail is going to be about the length of the body. So I'm just kind of measuring that up. And what I'm going to do with my left hand is I'm going to come in here fingertip to fingertip or fingernail to fingernail and transport those to my left hand, set them in at a 45-degree angle. Second wrap on, I'm going to increase my tension and roll that right on top. Then I can kind of check and see if my length is good. It's pretty good, but let's just make those just a pinch longer. So do 1, 2. Looks a little better. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to go backwards right up to that little dubbing ball. That's going to flare those and kind of pop them up. And then at this point, I'm going to come straight forward to about the 65% point of the hook. Then I can cut out all these extra barbs. So get those popping up. Lots of times you can cut those before you start winding them forward. You can just estimate where you want them. There we go. Let's come back up about that 65% point. Now we're going to do our wing post. So I've started with about 1 width of the Polypro coming straight off the card. You can see that little strand right there. I've taken a little, first I've divided it up into halves, and then I probably took just a pinch more off. So all we're going to do is make a couple wraps, get that firmly on top of the hook. Then I'm going to come back a couple more wraps, just make sure it's nice and tight. Come in at a slight angle from the back side. By cutting that at an angle, you can see as I wrap this in, it's going to not be as bulky as if I just made a square cut. If I want, I can kind of help that taper in there with a few wraps at the back. Come right back to the back of the wing, pull that straight up, and then I'm going to go right underneath the wing. Make sure I get underneath that, come forward about halfway there, and that sets my wing straight up. We'll grab a hackle. We want a size that's going to be about at least the gap of the hook. It can be even a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can pick one out that's just a pinch bigger. I say about 1 to 1.5 gaps of the hook. Should be just about perfect. Like all dry fly hackle, I'm going to cut off that back piece. Pull this hackle stems, some fibers forward. Then I'm just going to strip those off, exposing a bare stem. Now I'm going to tie this in all the way up to where the dubbing is, or where I stopped my thread at the front, right at this point. And I want to have just a little bit extra too, so that when I start making my wraps, I got about a half a wrap I hackle before hackle starts splaying everywhere. So I'm going to lay that in. Take a look at that and make sure it's okay. And tie that in nice and tight. And at this point, just grab this and lay it right in front of the wing. Come to the back, about halfway down. Prepped a little bit of dubbing here, kind of getting it all in the right direction. little bit of wax on my fingers. Dub that onto the thread. Nice little thin noodle. After you do that, you can go in there and make sure it's nice and tight. Then I got a little bare thread, so I'm going to work that back right up to the base of the tail. So my first wrap of dubbing is right at the end of the tail. And then we're just going to make a nice little taper going up here. Stop right there. Pull this hackle stem back. Tie on to that. That's where this kind of durability of this fly really comes into play. Some short little fibers here. I want to just cut those off because those are going to cause me some trouble throughout this fly if I don't. Then come in front. Cut that out. Then come up into the thorax. And if I have a little extra dubbing, I can go in there and clean this all up. Now, next step is put a little dab of cement right at the base of that wing. And we can fan this wing out kind of in a Vis-A-Dun style. And before that glue starts drying, we grab our hackle pliers. I'm going to make about 3-4 wraps right behind the wing. Bring it right in front. We'll do the same thing here, about 3. Tie this off. A couple fibers heading forward, so I want to cut those out. Then we're going to put a little bit more dubbing on the front. Then from right behind the eye, we're going to dub right back to the wing. Make a little head, so to speak, kind of a continuation of the taper and the body. And at this point, we're just whip finish. We're going to do a little trimming here. This wing is going to be about the length of the body. It's also about the same length as the hackle itself. Make sure that's spread out in a fan shape. And then go underneath the bottom, cut this hackle off right even. what to cut it a little shorter than what they say in the book. I think if you cut it nice and short like this fly will never roll on you. It'll hit the water and stay flat all the way through its drift. And that is John Barr's very durable dry fly Vis-A-Dun. You can fish it or tie it in a variety of colors. This is the PMD color, but you can tie it in bluing olives, mahoganies, black in very small sizes for PMDs, and at that point I'd probably change the hackle to a grizzly, and there you go. Thank you for watching.